r/AskReddit. EX-Bullies of Reddit, what was your turning point? We picked on this boy in grades 4 to 5, who was a little different. We would say he smelt and such. Even made a game called Stinky Boy where we all ran away from him. The teacher made me sit with him for the year and I mocked him constantly. One day he invited me to his birthday. I was confused but still went. Turns out he thought I was his best friend and gave me one of 5 special sleepover invitations. He invited all of my friend group at the time, all of which made fun of him. I was the only kid out of our class of 30 he had invited to show up to this poor kid's birthday. He was so happy to see me. We played games all night, and I had so much fun with him. Turns out the reason we thought he was smelly was because he had to wear the same pair of old cloths because his single father couldn't afford much else. Did I mention that his dad said to me that he had heard so much about me and how his son was so happy to have a friend like me? He even called my parents to tell them how happy he was that his son had finally found a friend. I hung out with him every snack term after that. Now in my final year of school I be sure to ask him what's up when I see him in the school as we grew apart and he finally found friends after I introduced him to some people. Looking back it makes me sad that kids can be so cruel. That poor kid. How sweet. I didn't expect to cry, but here we are. So it's not just me. I attended elementary/middle and a year of high school in a economically depressed working class town where the mills had closed down and families were hanging on by threads, if at all. It was a nightmare, like living in a prison. Bullying was rampant through the entire culture. Even the teachers would bully kids in unspeakable ways. So yeah, to my shame, I also bullied kids, just as I was being bullied by others. When I moved away to a different city, where bullying was not part of the culture, I suddenly found that I had no desire to be mean to other kids. I no longer felt seeing people humiliated or afraid was funny or gratifying in any way, and not having to feel that way myself was absolutely liberating. In fact, I suddenly found it kind of repulsive on the rare occasion where I witnessed someone being bullied. I once saw a friend of mine bullying some nerdy kid and actually found myself telling him to cut it out and leave him be, something I would never have done in my previous schools. I myself never bullied anyone again after I left that shit town. Years ago there was an experiment where a rat would be given an electrical shock periodically at random intervals. He would become terribly stressed out and miserable and start behaving neurotically. Then, a new rat would be introduced to the cage, and the rat that had been shocked would suddenly attack the new rat with a bizarre ferocity. Now the new rat would be stressed out, miserable and neurotic, but the shocked rat would calm down and be just fine. As if all the pain and fear that had been imposed on him had simply been transferred to the new rat. I think once you understand this about rats, you come to understand a lot about people. In middle school, me and another girl hit off really well because we both shared a love for video games and anime, and we always stuck up for each other because we did get teased a little for our hobbies. Fast forward to high school, I started hanging out with a group of cool girls, and they always made fun of my friend. Because I was with them, I thought it was okay to do it too, so I also teased her and left her out in a lot of my activities. This continued on for 2 years, and in the middle of our junior year she sent me a text message that made me reconsider probably every single life decision I've made. Hey brain, I've known you for almost 5 years, and have always considered you as my best friend, but I know people move on and drift. That being said, if you don't want to hang out with me anymore, I wish you told me to my face instead of visibly moving away from me and mocking me. I wish you all the best. I sat on that for weeks and weeks, and finally during senior year, I left that group of girls, who I later found were not so cool, and decided to apologize to my friend. I said I was an idiot, and I was so concerned with high school popularity I threw away probably my most important friendships. It's been another 5 years since then, and she and I are still really close. It's one point in our lives we don't talk about because I'm still really ashamed about it, but I'm glad she's forgiven me and has become one of my most supportive friends today. This is beautiful. Awesome. More power to you. Kid I bullied finally punched me in the face. Edit. My name starts with J. No joke lol. I did that to my bully around 7th grade. Never was messed with again. Joe? Replied elsewhere. Why does it seem all bully victims' names start with J? B man checking in here. So we aren't all J's. Edit. Though my brother is a J. And he was bullied too. Well, that is until he hit puberty and became a 6 feet 4 inches 275 pound sack of muscle. I've often reflected on this, especially recently going to therapy, which involves a lot of childhood stuff. Simple version is that bullying was endemic in my life all the way through. My brother bullied me. Our dad was horrible to him in particular. The neighbors were murderous shitbags who used to kill our pets, damage our property, and make our lives hell at every opportunity. School was top-down bullying in which anyone weaker was fair game to be tormented. I found solace outdoors as much as possible on my own, or working with adults at weekends and holidays. I used to enjoy fighting. I removed pain, remorse, caring, empathy or desire from my feelings. My joy was making people angry enough to attack me, then thump them a lot, as I really did not give a fuck about anything or anyone. Except one friend called Clee. She got through my armor and I really lived for the tiny moments I shared with her on the bus ride home. One day as I had finished fighting some poor kids on my way to sit beside her, I sat down to her asking me why I did that. Left school at 15 with this ringing in my head. Left home as soon as I legally could at 16. Past a group of kids my own age who tried to intimidate me as I passed by on a route I knew I was going to be using regularly. Decided I was done with the whole bullshit cycle of abusive behavior, so walked right up to the whole group of them and offered to fight them all. Laughed at them when they backed down. Went on my way. Took me a good few years to stop fighting at the drop of a hat, but a few rushes with the law brought that into focus, not to mention a few beatings. Low, zero, self-esteem, lack of role models and a misguided love of physical violence made me a total asshole from 11 to 15, but a kind word from someone I realized was my only true friend at the time gave me the impetus to begin to grow. Now I work with kids and try to drop in little nudges myself. I use positive reinforcement, praise and shit ton of patience, as well as being a good person to my colleagues for the pupils to see. So to Clee, wherever you are, I say a huge thank you. Clee, you the real MVP. I was the victim, not the bully, but I got to witness this moment. My elementary school didn't have a gym, so we'd walk a mile to the lake in the neighborhood to run laps, as it was almost a mile in circumference. Now, I had pretty bad asthma, which was often induced by exercise, and the school had a rule that all medication had to stay with the nurse on campus. My bully, let's call her Kat, started off with little things like stabbing scissors through my pigtails into her desk so that when I tried to stand up, I would tear my hair out, or making fun of my being a Jew. It eventually advanced to the point where she would make openly anti-Semitic comments and write them up on the board. She would lock me in the bathroom by pushing a chair against the outside knob, so I'd be stuck there until someone got me out, and at one point, she kicked my arm so hard that she caused severe damage to the muscle fibers, and I was in a sling for several months. One day, we had pet, and the teacher decided we would go run laps. So we went to the lake, and the teacher told us to run around the lake twice, and then we could be done for the day. Kat was the second slowest runner in class. I was the slowest. I finished one lap, and I felt ill. So I get halfway around the lake for my second lap, when my throat closes shut. I fell to my knees, gasping for air, trying to scream, but nothing comes out. I see Kat retreating, and I'm barely able to call out her name in a hoarse whisper. Somehow, she heard me. She saw me, and next thing I knew, she was carrying me, fireman style. A few minutes later, I heard the teacher screaming at her to stop, that she would fail, but Kat kept running. She ran a mile and a half with me on her shoulder, and brought me to the school nurse. When the nurse refused to administer the inhaler, because she wasn't sure, Kat grabbed it, and helped me use it. My heart started beating really fast, as they had grabbed the wrong inhaler, but I could breathe. Cat saw that something was wrong and gave me a phone to type in my phone number, and she spoke to my parents, telling them to come quick. They took me home and I arrested. Cat didn't ever come back to school, but she told me later that when she saw me there, something took over and she had to help me. In that instant of seeing me helpless and alone, she was the only one who could save me, and she did. She apologized for everything and thanked me for changing her life for the better. If she hadn't grabbed me and hauled us, no one would have gotten to me in time. She saved my life, and that act changed her forever. Last I heard, she was training to be a firefighter. Thank you so much for watching the entire video. I would be so grateful if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel. New videos every day.